Colleagues, I welcome you to this online tutorial on series of carbonyl compounds. So I want to say that simple aldehydes like which one? Simple aldehydes like methanol and ethanol. Those two, they can also be obtained on a large scale. They can be obtained on a large scale via oxidation of methanol and ethanol using oxygen in the presence of silver catalyst. The way how the oxidation occurs doesn't differ much. This is oxidation in terms of removal of hydrogen. So from methanol, we remove two hydrogens to form ethanol. From methane, we remove two hydrogens to form methanol. Then from ethanol, we remove two hydrogens to form ethanol. So this is what is carried out on a large scale. Yeah, so that is what is carried out on a large scale. So it is also important to note down those two techniques because you know, this curriculum is a bit dangerous. You can encounter a scenario and they are saying industrial something. I'll give you one scenario. I don't know whether time will allow me, but I'll see. I'll see whether I will discuss one scenario here. Then that is for oxidation of primary alcohols. Now I want to note that you see, I've been writing. I thought that I was on, but I haven't been on. That is the tragedy of being alone in one room. Otherwise, I would have been with someone who told me, who at least who was in a position of informing me that I've been talking to myself. I haven't been recording. Yeah, but what do I want to say? For secondary alcohols, that is for primary alcohols. Yeah. For secondary alcohols, these are oxidized. It is important to note that they are oxidized by both. They are oxidized by both strong oxidizing agents and mild oxidizing agents. The same examples which I highlighted, both strong and mild oxidizing agents to ketones. Now, note that for aldehydes, they can be oxidized in two ways. They can be oxidized in two ways, and we have seen those two ways. This is the first way. By mild oxidizing agent for primary alcohols, not aldehydes. Sorry. For primary alcohols, they can be oxidized in two ways. For primary alcohols, they can be oxidized in two ways. Now, this is for mild oxidizing agent. If you oxidize it using a mild oxidizing agent, you get an aldehyde. However, if you oxidize it using a strong oxidizing agent, that primary alcohol will be converted to a carboxylic acid. You see, primary alcohols are oxidized in two ways. If you use a weak oxidizing agent, you get an aldehyde, the first case. If you use a strong oxidizing agent, you first get this aldehyde. But recall that earlier on we saw that aldehydes are oxidized. So if you use a strong oxidizing agent, the alcohol will first be converted to an aldehyde, a product which is oxidizable. So it will be oxidized further to get a carboxylic acid. That is for an aldehyde. However, for a secondary alcohol, if it is oxidized, you get a ketone. Earlier on, we saw that ketones are not oxidized. You get a ketone. So ketone is not oxidized further. Whether you use a strong or weak oxidizing agent, it will remain there. It is also important to know that. Now you may ask me, why are what? Primary alcohols oxidized twice. Why are we having two ways of oxidizing them? Now look at the structure of a primary alcohol. You see this carbon here. This carbon in pink here. This carbon here. You see it has two hydrogens. Meaning that on the first oxidation, one hydrogen is removed. Since it has two hydrogens, on the first oxidation, one hydrogen is removed. On the other oxidation, another one is removed. On the first oxidation, one hydrogen is removed to get an aldehyde. On the second oxidation, another hydrogen is removed to get a carboxylic acid. But for secondary alcohols, look at here, down here where we have secondary alcohols. There's also only one hydrogen. I am meaning the hydrogen attached to that carbon carrying the functional group. You see, this carbon here, I'm meaning that hydrogen attached, those hydrogens attached to the carbon carrying the functional group. Now here, we only have one hydrogen, so we can only remove one hydrogen. That's why they are oxidized ones. So in principle, one has the following. If you use a strong oxidizing agent, also weak or mild oxidizing agent, what do you get? Either way you get, you remove that hydrogen, you remove two hydrogen, sorry. You remove, we have to remove this and also that. Yeah, the one for the hydroxyl functional group. Then we get that. So examples. I am not going to give. Okay, allow me give a general example, colleagues. Allow me give a general example. Yeah. If I have this is now an example of a secondary alcohol. I am going to put a lot of things on it. If you use acidified potassium permanganate, heat, that is a strong oxidizing agent. If you use dichromate 6, heat. If you use manganese 4 oxide, heat. If you use copper, 300 degrees centigrade, among others, we get a ketone. Now you see, there are differing properties in which these alcohols are oxidized here. But anyway, since I'm not teaching alcohols, I will not explain some things in detail. Then for tertiary alcohols, earlier on I said that tertiary alcohols are not oxidized. And I gave a reason. If you are watching this for the first time, kindly look at it. Yes.